Welcome back. Well, WNBA star Brittney Griner is still behind bars in a Russian prison despite attempts by the Biden administration State Department to strike a deal for her release. But it looks like she may have a friend coming to her rescue. Q, former NBA Hall of Famer Dennis Rodman, the former basketball star and friend of North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, announced over the weekend that he is planning on traveling to Russia in an attempt to bring her home. He says he knows Russian President Vladimir Putin too well. Well, is this a good idea? And what does this mean for our national security? Joining me now to discuss is former State Department spokesperson Morgan Ortagus. Morgan, welcome to the show. Always good to see you. All right, this is an interesting one. We haven't heard from Dennis Rodman in a long time here. Come out, make the side comments when he was at a sneaker conference in D.C. How dangerous is this for Rodman to go over there on his own account? He does credit himself with the release of American missionary Kenneth Bae from North Korea. So could this work?
No. I don't know if it's dangerous as much as it is silly, Lyndsay. I have to tell you, at this moment in time, I feel for my predecessor, Ned Price, the State Department spokesperson. When you're working on these really serious issues and news like this comes out, it's very, difficult to deal with as a press person. So listen, Dennis Rodman is known for doing these sorts of things. He's apparently buddy with Kim Jong-un. Why not be buddies with Putin? The problem, I think, really what will happen out of this is you'll get a photo op. He is not a trained negotiator. He's sort of going to what I would call like sports wash, right? The picture between he and Putin. Putin will use it as a propaganda tool, similar to how Kim Jong-un is. But I don't think we're going to see any serious negotiations for Brittney Griner in these meetings.
Okay, so during the Trump administration that you were a part of, a reported 38 American hostages were brought home, which was amazing. Yeah. The Biden administration has not had such good luck. They're reportedly been working on a prisoner swap deal with Russia for Brittney Griner and Paul Whelan for a while now. Hasn't worked. The exchange is for the Russian arms dealer Viktor Bout, who is known as the Merchant of Death. Why isn't Russia accepting this exchange?
Well, you're right on the historic number of people that were unlawfully detained abroad that we were able to get back. Robert O'Brien, who later became our national security advisor, a dear friend of mine, was the envoy in charge of these negotiations. And I think Robert would be the first to tell you that you don't get to these negotiations without having somebody like President Trump in office. So I think the whole world within the first 9 months of the Biden administration took the measure of who he is, and they saw that he let Kabul fall to the Taliban. They sensed weakness, and they pounced. So for us, we were only able to get all of these people home because the leaders in these regimes understood that President Trump was serious. They were probably a little bit concerned about what he might do if we didn't get Americans home. And by the way, we didn't bribe people. We didn't pay people. We just had a president that everyone knew was serious and meant business, and that people were somewhat afraid of. And in these situations, that's a good thing.
So this Wednesday marks the 6-month mark for Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The U.S. is trying to figure out how to close loopholes on its sanctions plan against Russia. I mean, we've had sanctions on them almost since the beginning. They're clearly not working. The war is ongoing. How are they planning on doing this? Well, according to the Wall Street Journal, they want to close these loopholes by asking countries like India and China to be stricter on Russia. I mean, how insane is this, Morgan? This is the country, China, who is doing joint military exercises with Russia, and also the country that gave intelligence to Russia that we gave them about Russia amassing troops on the border of Ukraine. I mean, this does not sound like a working plan.
I agree with you there. I mean, from my opinion, the problem with the sanctions is that they were half measures from the start. I think the administration should have came up with the full force of American weight on this. Sort of like do it or don't do it at all, right? Like the half measures don't really work. In fact, we're seeing the ruble trading at higher values than ever. Everybody still seems pretty dependent on Russian energy. So as long as Russia has that lifeline, you're going to be unable to enforce this. Now, if this administration can get China and India on board, good for them. I wish them the best. So here's an example. In the Trump administration, we also had a similar sanctions regime towards the Islamic Republic of Iran. It was called the Maximum Economic Pressure Campaign. And while we were diplomatic and polite, we were very clear to all actors around the world, China, India, South Korea. You could go through the list of people that were purchasing Iranian oil, and we were very clear that we were intent on applying U.S. sanctions. So what's the difference between the Biden administration and why it worked for Trump and Iran but won't work or is not working for Biden and Russia? Well, the Biden administration hasn't been enforcing the sanctions against Iran and Venezuela. So this is the problem. You can't cherry pick how you enforce sanctions.
Yes.
And whenever you start letting the sanctions ease up in Iran, when you let them ease up in Venezuela, what's to make the Chinese and the Indians or anyone else think that you're going to be serious as it relates to the sanctions on Russia?
Power.
Exactly.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Morgan Ortagus, always good to see you. Thanks.
Thanks, friend.